welcome to the Storied Human. This is Lynn Thompson, and I'm here today with Jack Thompson, who does have the same name as me. Yes, we are siblings. He's a fascinating person with a great entrepreneur story to tell. He builds arcade games for home use that customers can play up to 35,000 games on. And he's been in business for 19 years. His journey from the corporate world to the arcade world is a fascinating one, filled with ups and downs and lessons learned. And I just can't wait to dig into it. So welcome, Jack.
Hi, Lynn. Glad to be here. I'm excited to share my story. It did have a lot of ups and downs. And only looking back, I realized that this is not for everyone.
Right.
But it's always definitely a must for me. And I had to do what I had to do. I couldn't handle working for the man anymore. I wanted to be the man. And it wasn't an ego thing. It was just that I knew I was better than most of my bosses, and I could do their job better, and I couldn't get recognition for it. And it was killing me. I knew I was better things for me to do. I worked retail in the very beginning. I worked long hours. I knew I was better, but I had no choice. I was not educated. For many years, I worked in liquor stores. I got a break from my sister, who gave me a small job working on a computer for a few months. And that gave me some experience. But it really started by chance that my young daughter, who now is 33, was in preschool at a church. And my wife met the mom of another daughter, and they invited me to New Year's Eve dinner. That person was Michael Brown. He worked for L'Oreal, and he was a manager, and he had a very similar background to me, working in retail. And he understood that, and he knew I had no experience, but he knew I had the mind and the acumen for numbers. So he literally handed me a job with no PC experience, running an old Windows 3.0. And I just dove into the water and started to swim. And while I was lucky to get that job, what I did after that was my doing. I ended up having a 20-year corporate career. But as I moved through the corporate career from 1995, by 99, I realized I had to leave. And at that time, emulation was just starting with arcade games. Some guy figured it out in 1997, how you would take the video and the audio from an arcade game, shove it into a computer shell program, and then play with a keyboard and a mouse. So Ms. Pac-Man was emulated. Missile Command, I was playing that at work when I should have been working. And it didn't mean much to me. But then all of a sudden, some guy in the UK made an interface that you could shove wires from joysticks and buttons into the interface. The interface would then see the computer and then recognize each button and each joystick. So all the way, you could play arcade games where they're meant to be played with joysticks and buttons. So then the light bulb went off, and I became probably the second or third business in the country to form, because I saw instantly my life, my forward life, my future life flash before my eyes. I knew what I was going to do. I knew that this is my destiny. And this is my car I'm going to hop in to drive the rest of my life.
How did you know that? How did you know that?
Because I could smell it, the money. Some people don't care about arcade games, but most people, I'd say 75%, they love and talk about the old days when they played Miss Pac-Man, or they played Donkey Kong or Missile Command or Street Fighter or Marvel vs. Capcom.
Yeah.
They love it. And they don't understand that you can play all these games and home console games from like Atari, Genesis as well, that you can play it from home. But not just playing from home in front of a TV with a handheld. You can play it with an actual cabinet with a TV and a computer and recreate all the dreams you had back as a kid. When you walk into the arcade, you put a $5 bill in the change machine, you got 20 quarters, you could play for hours. Now that dream comes true at home. So people look for something to do with their family. Right. And this was perfect. The kids love Super Mario. They know what that is. You could be 90 or you could be 2. You know Super Mario. So everyone sees themselves in their home with that game once they see the game we build. So it's an easy sell. You just have to make it available to them, and you push it out, of course, through Facebook advertising.
No, and that's brilliant. And I love how you knew right away. But it took you a while to get there. How did you start?
Yeah, I kind of like accelerated that by too many years. Essentially, I started out the way that I thought was best, which is slow. Maintain the corporate job because I had two kids and a wife to support because she stayed home for our agreement. And I wanted to get a name recognition for myself. So I purchased, at that time, I was just beginning to make some games for people using old arcade games. You shove an actual big old TV inside and you restore an old game with black paint and stuff. It was pretty junky, but back then it was pretty cool for people.
Yeah,
And
but I remember you used to drive far to go to these auctions and stuff, right?
Yes, and that was fun. I buy joysticks and buttons for people who were just beginning to do their own games. So the DIY crowd was larger on eBay. So I would resell joysticks and buttons to people on eBay, increasing my positive feedback. And I figured out after doing it for about a year, I was making about $4 an hour. But my feedback was growing. And all of a sudden, then I started to make more things and more things. And then I realized in the 2005, after 2 years of doing this, I need to have a machine that cuts the wood for me. I did make a couple games by hand from scratch. That was too labor intensive. So I spent $10,000 for a cutting machine called a CNC. It's computer guided.
Mm-hmm.
And people thought I was insane. My father-in-law questioned me and I told him it pays for itself in the first year. So that was cutting. I'm not a woodworker by trade or anything like that, but the CNC machine's computer guided. So it made me look good. It was fairly easy to cut once you assemble the files. So we're off and running in 2005 after 2 years, making real games from scratch, using the wood and building it. And while we sold a few, it was mostly a side business at that time. The corporate career was doing quite well, moving through other companies, and because you only get a good raise when you leave a company. And I do that for a while. So maybe 2009 or 10, the business was doing quite well. And then I realized maybe I should get a website. So 2009, I made a website. I had one done by somebody. It helped a lot because people have a lot of questions and they end up asking you a lot of questions. So this answered their questions before they ask me, saving me some back and forth with customers. They educate themselves first and they come back with less questions and then they buy via PayPal and the website. And then 2014, unfortunately, I was underperforming in my corporate job at the time, and I was fired. And that's because I was working about 50 hours in the arcade business and about 50 hours in the corporate job.
Whoa.
And I maintained the corporate job, the last one I had, for almost 5 years at a pretty high level. I was very proud of it, but it let go after a while, and that was it. And then what am I going to do now? And I said, well, how about this Facebook thing? You know, I have a Facebook account, but I don't have a business account. So social media was big where I used to work. And I figured if they can do it, I can do it because they're selling light bulbs at Philips Lighting. I'm selling arcade games. And which would you rather look at on your Facebook page?
Right.
It's something people want. So I went to look online and found some guy nearby in Pennsylvania. And for $500, he would build a basic business site and teach me how to boost / promote your Facebook page. And again, people thought I was insane because they all said, I can make a page for Facebook in 30 seconds. What are you talking about? But he knew that I had a business background in marketing and I just need to be taught the basics. And he did do that. And now we have been doing Facebook for 8 years.
Wow.
And basically I spend several $1,000s a month promoting, but I promote specific posts of maybe 30, 40 pictures of games. I describe it, the pricing, the options. And then I find the demographic I want to promote to, which is probably 35 to 55. I can sort by demographic. I can sort by major cities within 50 miles. I can sort by income. I do anywhere from top 25% income in the United States. So when I push this out to people, most people seeing it are the ones that might buy my game.
That's so good. Targeted marketing. So now for people who don't know, I just want to make it super clear because your games are so beautiful and special. Describe what we're saying when you say build a game. Now, I know we have the pieces of wood that you hand, that you cut on your machine, but I also know that you have an artist who does very customized, beautiful art. So these are, I think of them almost as artisanal arcade games. You're not going to ever see another one just like it. You tend to customize them for your customers?
It's much like a customer who likes sports cars and wants to have a custom paint job.
Yeah.
Essentially, people, when they go to that house, they want a game that looks like a game, but has some personal touch to it.
Yeah.
The top of the game can be a custom name, like my name is Thompson. It could be Thompson Classic Arcade. The artwork skin could be classic arcade characters as a collage. It could be their favorite sports teams as a collage. If they're from Detroit, I've done artwork from Chicago teams, Detroit teams, Dallas teams, New York City teams, Philadelphia teams, and anything revolving around arcades, and of course, home consoles like Super Nintendo is very popular. Nintendo, one game with a big Nintendo controller, which has generally been known as black and gray and red. So people do customize a lot. They love the customization. I probably have up to 100 different designs already made over the years. And still a good amount of people do still customize for a fee, their own work from scratch.
Oh, that's cool. I just think that's part of what makes them so special. You know, you're not going to get that anywhere. And I remember one you did with like space, like the cosmos on the side, just beautiful art.
One of our first ones. Art. When people don't know what we have, they stumble upon us. They really do. And they think, okay, it's an arcade game. And no, it's not. They freak out when they realize they can play every arcade game ever made from the beginning.
Oh my God.
About the year 2000 and beyond. Every home console system from the Atari era through NES, Super Nintendo, Genesis, N64, PlayStation, and they don't understand it. And when they see it, I have videos on the Facebook page, and they see what you can play. It is really a dream come true, and it's me just guiding them to the sale. It's one of the most easiest things at that point.
Yeah.
Once they've done all their homework and I've showed them everything, it's easy to close the sale.
Yeah.
Getting to that point has been a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah. Well, you've learned so much over the years, and you've been so determined the whole time. Like, how did you keep going? I know it wasn't always easy.
That's a good question. I thought about that before this interview, and I think my makeup, how I was born, everyone has a certain personality. You can change, of course, but don't tell me I can't do something. I've always been like that. But I was more negative, I would think, than I have been when I was 18, 19, 20, 21. And then of all things, I got involved with a company at the time called Amway. Now, Amway has since been morphed into something else, and was not for me. But they offered reading materials outside of Amway that were self-help books, positive thinking, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, The 1 Minute Manager, all kinds of stuff. And I'm reading like crazy because I was like, oh, this is my ticket. This is my car. I'm going to hop in and ride to fame and fortune. It didn't work out. But I left Amway in about 2 years with the attitude is, I'm going to do something, and you're not going to stop me.
Wow.
But I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
So I just kept doing my corporate job. Once I went through about 10 years of retail. And then again, when we had that light bulb go off in my head, when I realized, well, if this is DIY, if people doing this in the mid 90s, why can't this be commercial? I see just one company doing it, and I could be the second company.
That's so cool.
Because it does help that I'm in the Northeast and they're on the West Coast, the first company ever made. So that's helped a lot.
That does.
What has really helped a lot is people don't think they can do it.
Yeah.
So if you think you can do it better, then go right ahead. But they don't, because they lack.
Jack, it's not an easy thing. I mean, it took you a long time to get to the point where you can do it.
It's not an easy thing, but it's something that everyone could do if they just put aside the fact that the feeling you have, and this is something I thought about a lot recently. If you fail without even trying, that feeling of hopelessness is devastating. But that's far worse. It's much better than to try and fail. I mean, right. I failed many times on the way up in this business. I made U-turns in the business. I lost $3,000 or $4,000 twice in different ways, in trying different ways to sell games. And I quickly got out of it, realizing it's not going to work. and realize it's failure as you're trying is good because you're moving forward.
Yeah,
Failure
that's so
by
great.
not trying is absolutely horrifying to some people. It was to me.
That's
Very
such a good
devastating.
point. Yeah. So what I hear is that you're very well, stubborn. We both are. I think stubborn helps, right? We're stubborn.
Well, it does. I have a family too. I mean,
Oh, that's huge, right?
we made the decision to have my wife stay home and take care of our children, and that was difficult, impossible now, even more difficult, somewhat difficult back then. But I worked 2 jobs to do that, and so if you take on that responsibility, you take it seriously. So you're not going to just jump off the cliff, forming your business to say, "Oh, I'm going to make $1 million and quit my job." You wait until something happens, like you get fired from your job, and it shows you that it's time to go.
Now it's time.
This is go time, and we've doubled the business since then. And I now make significantly more than any corporate job I ever had.
That's so good.
So I've been a 19-year overnight success.
Like a lot of people, right? It does take
Yep.
time. And you learned what I keep hearing when I talk to entrepreneurs is that they learn that failure just means it's time to pivot. It doesn't mean the end. It just means, oh, I tried that. Now I'm going to pivot a little bit. And it's so cool when you get that. I didn't get that for a long time, but I get it now.
I think I go to Disney World a lot, and there's one small exhibit that shows Walt's life. And he's quoted in there during his life story, everyone once in a while needs a good failure. And that was Walt. Walt was a big failure. And in the video that shows his life is wonderful. He failed so many times in a row.
Yeah.
And then he hit with a big movie. And he had a breakdown at one time, actually, and he still hit. So he just mentioned that mindset is a failure can be turned into just another walking forward step to success. It's all it really is.
It's part of learning. But yeah, we're not taught that as children, though. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but I think mom and dad, they used to talk about, or I remember just feeling like people who started their own businesses, it was too dangerous. They lost their shirt. You don't want to do that. You know, I think that was sort of like the feeling that we got. Go get a job, be safe.
Well, I think that's important if you're the type of person that would just think dollar signs in your head and just push everything away that was boring job you had, doing what you did to make money, and dump it all to have a business. The biggest mistake I see people make in forming a business is they try and buy the business.
Yeah.
They'll buy the shirts, they'll buy the pens, they'll all of a sudden buy everything ahead of time before they even sold anything.
Yeah.
Or worse, they'll go into a bricks and mortar situation and they won't think about what is my rent, what is my employee cost, what is everything I have to pay per month, what do I have to do to make up just to break even? And it takes maybe about an hour to figure that out. But I watch business after business along the highway.
Yeah.
And I can drive by a business and look at them and say, you could never have succeeded because you didn't have a product that can make enough money even to pay your rent.
They don't have business knowledge, and not everybody's as good at math as you. You know, it's very natural for you to crunch numbers.
It is, and I never had a bricks and mortar business, so I can't say I'm totally against it. But in my opinion, is if you take anything from this interview, do a business that is online.
Yeah.
Whether it's Etsy.com where you make your own item and sell it, or eBay you sell it, or if you want to do a business, and here's a good business idea for people who have no idea what they want to do, simply do arbitrage. What that is you buy low and you sell at retail on Amazon or eBay. I did it a couple times in my life. One Christmas season, a Black Friday on November 10 years ago, 3DS handheld consoles were on sale. And I think Walmart had like 5 of them. And it was the age of the internet. So I went to my cell phone. I go, oh, I can make $50 on each one of these. I bought them all up, resold them on eBay, and made $300 profit on 6 of them. That's arbitrage. And the name is not well known. So just think of it as reselling. So I give that gift to people. And I might do that when I retire, because essentially is go to clearance racks, buy at Walmart, buy at Target, buy it anywhere, Costco, and investigate what it retails for Amazon. People want convenience in this world.
Yes. Yeah, they want to order it, right?
The price may not be the lowest price, but if it's a going price, then they'll buy it and you make the cut. Mine is Amazon's cut. So I'll leave you with that. Stay online and start small. That way you have no overhead, you have no rent, you have no worry about, you may fail on a small level, but you won't lose 15, 20 grand. Then you can keep on trying other ideas.
You've built your business. You've been so intelligent about it, and you've made such good decisions. I've watched you make these great marketing decisions. You've responded, like you said, if you had a misstep or a failure, you responded and pivoted. You didn't love school, and you're not somebody that thrived in that environment. And I think that's really good for people to hear, to know that there's another way to go if school is not your thing.
And yet, I believe it's dangerous not to go to school.
Okay.
Especially in this era. In my era, I managed to get a corporate job. And I know when I applied for a job, I knew that I had to have it in. And even then, I was told you can't apply for that job because they demand you have a 4-year degree. That door is shut, closed. There's no way you can get a job in the corporate world now without a 4-year degree. So yes, that's correct. But if you were to try from age 21 to 31 and fail, it can happen. Then what do? You're 31 and had no degree.
Yeah.
So my advice is get the degree, whether it be 2-year or 4-year, because almost any career demands now a 4-year or 2-year degree.
Right.
So, and build a business while you're working. If you really have a passion about you want to do this, you will find the extra time. If you can't find the extra time, then you're not made to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So I would love to hear your take on what are the traits that we need to be a good entrepreneur? Like, what makes an entrepreneur?
Wow. The ability to work any amount of hours and do whatever it takes.
Oh, man.
Because in general, you're going to have a regular job. And it's so easy to stop when you come home, flip off your shoes, go on the internet, YouTube videos, watch your episodic TV, and then that's it. Because, hey, I'm tired, man. I drove an hour each way to work. I did my 40 hours. The hard part is have dinner, get up, go to your computer, and start selling. Start creating what you do. Whether you have a 3D printer and you create figurines, whether you have a CNC router and you create arcade games, or you create with a laser machine, you create invitations for weddings and stuff, or you engrave with a laser or metal, whatever it is, you get up and you do that. And you check email, you check Facebook, you check eBay, and you go to bed at 1 a.m. You get up at 6 or 7, and you do it again on the next night, and you do it again. And that's will weed out most people. And that's good, because if you don't want to burn yourself out, you'll know right away if you're made to be an entrepreneur. If this is ridiculous, you say, I'm not doing it, this is crap. That's good, because you've taught yourself before you break down and lose it that you aren't made to be an entrepreneur. It's okay.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're less. It just means you're not that mold.
Right.
I didn't want to be a corporate guy. I didn't want to be a director or a vice president. I probably committed corporate suicide by having a business on the side, which is fine by me.
Yeah, it worked. Well, I would say it worked out.
It has, but there are the negatives. You have to pay your own health care. You pay double Social Security tax. You pay Medicare tax. All that is your responsibility when you have only one person making money.
Yeah, that's hard. So
your tax rate is lower, but your tax rate for those things you never had to pay for now are there. And you have no 401k. You have nothing. So you have to save yourself. And you have quarterly tax payments, and you have to save money for that. And again, I'm working crazy hours. I'll be up till, I do spend a couple hours a night for myself, but I do work until 1 a.m. most nights.
Yikes.
But the best thing about being self-employed, I'll sleep to 9:30, 10 o'clock. I have to get my 7-8 hours. Otherwise, you just become exhausted and you can't do anything.
That makes me happy that you're home and you can set your own schedule.
Yes, I have a 30-yard walk to my pole barn. So it's not for everybody. It's not.
No, it's not for everybody. But I admire you and what you've built.
Thank you. It is an almost overwhelming amount of work.
Yeah.
There is nothing easy about it. I tend to take compliments poorly, not because I have a poor self-image, but because I've done it so long and I'm so good at it that it's fairly easy now.
Yeah.
None of it's hard.
You understand it.
I could teach someone to do what I do, and they would have an easy time of it. I put all the work in. So I would think that if I attempt to sell this business to somebody, it'll be very, very profitable for them and much less stressful for them to run
Yeah.
it. Because
Because you
people,
worked
I'm
it out.
sure,
Yeah.
who the many guys out there who probably have corporate jobs, who dream having their own job, and all of a sudden they see my job advertised, my business, and they go, oh, wow, a turnkey business, building things people like to have. I'm not
Yeah.
a plumber as a Facebook page. You only got to call me when you break down. I build what people want. I build dreams. And it's the coolest thing to go to somebody's house when I personally deliver a game locally, and the whole family just freaks out.
They get excited. Yeah.
And
That's
it's always
lovely.
fun to do that because people relive their childhood and
Yeah,
they
you
show their
never get
children
tired of that, right?
what they did, what they played.
Yeah.
And they have, and then children catch on to it. And it's wonderful. Everyone at every age loves what we build. So I don't think it's anything special. I think I'm just making sure that people see it, this thing that I do, and then they
Yeah.
realize how great it is. And then the sale is easy.
It's easy to do. So you've built a couple machines for pretty famous people, right? We didn't talk about that.
I did build a very special game for a web celebrity. His name is Jace Hall, but more importantly, I was called out to set the game up in North Hollywood, and in walks Dolph Lundgren, who had to be doing some work in the studio. So I met Dolph Lundgren.
Nice.
And I met Rick Fox, who was a LA Lakers player who's friends with Jace Hall. We built a game for Stefan Belafonte, former husband to Mel B of the Spice Girls fame.
Yeah.
Flew out there, set the game up. That was cool. Also, while I was at the North Hollywood, the next year, doing some minor work on this game in North Hollywood, we had a customer about an hour away. We had a game like that was being shipped. He wanted personal service. So my son, Jack, and I flew out to do the service on his game and set him up. And the first customer, who I met Dolph Lundgren and stuff, wanted some service on this game. So I went by to do that. And I was only there for an hour. And there walks this little kid, and in walks his mom. And his mom was Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, cool.
and that was the coolest thing. What was even cooler was, as my son's done playing games, he had no idea who she was. It was that generation gap.
Yeah.
He never saw any of her movies. And the one guy had to say, do you realize her family is Hollywood royalty? Tony Curtis.
Yeah.
He didn't know that. He didn't know that either. So it was it was a big generation gap there. But yeah, I met a lot of famous people, but to me, it was just, I enjoy the average guy. I delivered to a lot of wealthy people in terms of they had that big 5,000 square foot home. I really enjoy going to an average ranch house where I know the guy makes 70, 50, 60 grand a year. And this is a big expense for him. And that's the guy I like to deliver to, because it means so much to him. Now, it means a lot to the guy that makes 100 grand, 200 grand, 300 grand or more, but it really means a lot to this guy because he's stretching to buy it. So my most fun deliveries are to people who are just average people that work in their hard job and then get this dream delivered to their house.
I love your description of that I never thought about that. Like when you deliver the games in person, that excitement factor. I mean, that is really cool. And you get to see that over and over. So that's a nice part of what you do. Yeah, and you make something that people enjoy.
It's actually very expensive for me to do that. I don't make much money after costs and a helper and gas and tolls and taxes and fees. But it's people want that, because if I live within 200 miles of you, shipping it to them seems so silly. I'm in the area where they want delivery. I'm in the Northeast, one of the highest income areas in the country. So I'm positioned perfectly. And I recognize that. So I have to provide the service.
Yeah, but I think that's smart. And I just think you've made a lot of good decisions along the way. And I'm super proud of you.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing all that good stuff.
Been a long road.
Yeah, it has been. But you really never gave up. Do you think that's really underneath it all? The big thing is just never give up.
Yes. You've heard me say this before in life. I'm not quite as strongly believe it, but if you build your self-image up as a child to your children or as a child from your parents, that's it. That's all you really need, is a strong sense of worth. And you just need that vehicle, whatever it might be, whatever job or career you want. I mean, look at your son. It's just tremendous that the ethic is taught. Our parents worked their asses off. I sold paraffin candles by door when I was 5 years old.
I know. Our mother had us do that. Yes.
I had muscular dystrophy carnivals when I was 10, raising money for muscular dystrophy.
Now, see, I remember that. I don't even think you remember. I remember you having a carnival when you were like 6. I remember being shocked. You were so young and you saw this advertisement on the TV, and it was, I guess it was Jerry Lewis. And he's like, have a muscular dystrophy carnival this summer in your backyard, invite everybody. And you made up games. I think there's 2 things about that story that's amazing. One, you were 6 and decided you would do that. That's not an average kid, right? And the other thing is mom said yes.
Yeah, things were different back then, I guess. Essentially, the self-image is key, but you could be a negative thinker.
Yeah.
So educate yourself. Self-help books are wonderful. Probably the biggest book I've ever read came along later in my corporate career, maybe about 1999, 2000, when I quit the job to get a much better job at Ben & Jerry's ice cream. And my boss, my mentor, gave it to me, and he knew what that meant. Once he gave me the book, he knew I'd be quitting. It's called Who Moved My Cheese?
Oh, I heard about that book.
That book is incredible. It teaches you where you think you want to be, where you should be, how to do it. And it's basically a self-image book. That's the one I want to leave you with. And then you can get a summary online for free in 30-second search. It'll summarize the book. Who Moved My Cheese?
Yeah.
And it makes you understand that what you're doing may not be what you're meant to do. And I was meant to be a business owner. I didn't know what it was, but the vehicle could be anything. It happened to be arcade games.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to be deterred. If it didn't work out, it would have been something else.
You were meant to do it.
Now, there is one argument I read back and forth between 2 guys. Entrepreneurs born.
This was such a great interview for me because I learned things about my brother's journey that I hadn't known, some details and some really interesting takes on how he pivoted and how he persisted and why. And I'm hoping that some of those things are helpful to you if you're considering building a business. I can't thank him enough. He had so many good things to say. And of course, I've always loved him and I'm proud of him. But today, listening to this interview again, I'm even more proud. So thank you to Jack Thompson. Check out the show notes for the book he recommends. I'll put his website in the show notes too. It's arcadesaretfun.com, just so you know. And have a great week, guys. And I'll talk to you next week on The Storied Human. Thanks.